Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we help you figure out everything related to D2C subscriptions. I'm your host, Matthew Holman, and this week's show is going to be all about whether you should send an upcoming billing reminder or not. Now, just to set a little bit of a backstory, as any of you may know, running a subscription business, every time you send an upcoming order notification or a billing reminder, you get cancellations. It's a fact of life. You're essentially reminding somebody that they have a subscription, and in many instances, reminding them that they can cancel it. Now, why would you not want to send these versus why would you want to send them is a really big question. A lot of brands are deliberating over this. Clients, potential clients on social. This is a conversation that happens an awful lot. So I want to spend a little bit of time breaking it down because in the past, when I've talked about this, I usually take the approach from a better customer experience, the ability to improve average order value, give customers more control, essentially arguing for the benefits of sending that billing reminder. But I often don't talk about the actual negative impacts and why I think there is a net benefit to sending a billing reminder in most instances, as opposed to not sending one. Now, everything I said is something you can test. If you have any questions about how you can set up a test like this, feel free to reach out, send me a DM, comment on this. Happy to share you some different insights of ways you can tag customers or run this. But the bottom line is, I believe from what we've seen in numbers is that it's better to send an upcoming billing reminder. And this is why. So if you think about a normal experience, people buy a subscription, they don't get a billing reminder, they get an order confirmation email, or they see a charge on their credit card the next month that is a reminder. So what normally happens in that instance? You have a lot of people who are fine with it, who are perfectly happy to have that subscription come to them. And then you have a smaller segment of your cohort of your subscribers that are upset about that. They forgot, they didn't realize that the subscription was going to renew. There's all kinds of reasons, and maybe it's just something as simple as they forgot. Some people feel like maybe they're duped. I kind of like walk a neutral path in the sense of like, I don't believe anybody out here is like tricking people into having a subscription, especially if you're selling on Shopify. There's a checkbox at checkout saying I understand that I've agreed to a recurring charge on the subscription order. But the bottom line is you have a lot of people that are now upset at the fact that has happened, and they will either reach out to you to have that charge reversed, or they will go in to cancel it themselves, or they will create a chargeback situation on your credit card. Okay, so those are kind of three separate instances. Now, the first one, maybe the least painful one, is say they have a subscription, they want to go cancel that. The order confirmation has reminded them of that. You have captured another month of billing from that customer. They go into the portal, they go click cancel. Now, I have seen a lot of instances where that experience, the opportunity to save that person after that has happened, is generally lower than somebody that gets a billing reminder because it's already happened. They already have a charge. It's already on the way. They're essentially done. And so a lot of that automation or offers that you might build in your cancellation flow are going to be less effective for that type of customer than it might have otherwise. Okay. Now, the second part is, hey, you have people reaching out to your CS team, asking you to refund that order. Now, you can certainly create safeguards where that order maybe didn't ship yet. You're waiting to see if people reach out. But the bottom line is you're now having to reverse those charges. You still eat some of that those processing fees because those don't get refunded. And then you have a bad customer experience with that person because they wanted that to happen, even if you send them a link to the portal where they can cancel it themselves. And then the worst case scenario is that you have people that are creating chargebacks for you, right? Which negatively impacts the health of your processing for your business. It can actually have compounding effects where you'll have more charges declined in the future. So that also opens up kind of a negative can of worms. So the idea is that we're trying to essentially restrict people's awareness or not. I can be more favorable and say, we're trying to not remind people they have a subscription so that if somebody really wants to cancel, they'll find out after the fact. we'll capture another month's of revenue, or worst case, we have to create a reverse that charge. I would say the actual worst case is a chargeback, because that is actually really horrible for your business, because a lot of chargebacks actually will do it for several months. So yeah, maybe the first renewal is not that big of a deal, but they could be 3 or 4 months in, and they could hit you a chargeback for all of those, and they'll win like a lot. A brand I was auditing recently, it's a problem that they're facing, that people were just winning their chargebacks on multiple orders, costs a huge revenue hit. It's a huge revenue hit. But the other side of this is that we're actually like losing sight of the way that we can better manage a customer experience. So again, I would say that your best case scenario is that you're capturing one more month of revenue, and then people are going and canceling right away. Okay. So what would happen on an alternative situation is we can send an email where we actually have more control over the messaging and the experience. Now, I've seen a lot of upcoming billing reminders that are just absolute garbage, where it's like, hey, your order is about to process, click here to make any changes. Boom, you're inviting people to cancel. As opposed to like, hey, your next order of bliss is on the way. Another month of better sleep is on the way. Another month of like workout stuff is on the way, right? You're missing the option. You're missing the opportunity to control that narrative, to remind them of the reasons that they bought, but also create, like, there's some really cool tools, especially, you've heard me talk about it probably before, a tool like Zamo, where we can embed the subscription portal into the email. And we can actually tell people if they need to skip, they can actually click right here. Or if they need to adjust their frequency, they can click right here. We actually don't need to send them to the portal. So if somebody feels like, I don't know, or I'm on the fence, or maybe I have a little too much product, they can make an adjustment right there instead of seeing the next charge and going to cancel right away, right? The other missed opportunity here is we're actually not creating upsells. Because if we're going to adopt the strategy of we don't want to send billing reminders, then we're also not sending marketing emails either. Why? Because it's going to do the exact same thing. A brand I audited last year was doing that. It was just kind of nutty. You could see cancellation spikes every time they'd see an email, but they didn't want to send a billing reminder email because they were worried about it causing churn. Okay, that doesn't really make much sense. So the idea here is we know that sending an email could create churn. The idea behind them, though, is can we capture more lifetime value by communicating with our subscribers? And the best place to do it is in the billing reminder email. A lot of my clients, where we're actually upselling people into quarterly subscriptions, we're upselling them to add-ons, and we're seeing net benefits. So if you can look in most subscription software, you can see cancellations by day. And if you look at, say, a monthly subscription box where it's billed on the 15th every month, we know that we see cancellation spikes around the 15th or a couple days leading up to the 15th, right? When we send other emails, we can see whether there's a spike or not. So it's really easy to see the impact on churn when we send notifications like that, which is, I know why a lot of people opt out of doing that. So it's actually really easy to manage how that's happening. And if we can send the right email without causing a higher than average churn, which is very, very doable, I'm telling you, it's very doable, we actually can start unlocking better LTV, getting people to have more control over their subscription. Because the ultimate goal with this practice is, and again, I know why brands are doing it, and I know the compelling reasons behind it, but the idea is you're trying to lock people in that don't want to be locked in. And those people are going to leave. Those people either aren't having a great product experience, they didn't try using your product, they didn't like the fact that it was subscription only or some other reason like that. The idea is they're trying to get out. So your best case scenario is that you're going to get another month's worth of billing from them, and then they cancel. And maybe out of that group that cancel, you save 1 or 2% out of that whole cohort. As opposed to a lot of the other brands that I know are sending billing reminder emails, this is incredibly effective, is that they are actually speaking to their customer, they're engaging with them, they're sending them content, they can upsell them, they have more frequency subscription controls. There's a lot more positives that come out of that. So again, the idea is we're worried about spiking churn instead of focusing on the North Star metric needs to be lifetime value. The average lifetime value for your cohort needs to go up, not down. right? So when we're looking at how we make it go up, giving more control, creating more upsell opportunities, that's the way to drive up higher LTV. So a big, huge research project we did a couple years ago at QPilot is we were assessing what happens when customers make frequency changes. And we found that customers that made 3 frequency changes saw a 200% higher lifetime value than those that did not. Customers that switched products 3 times, 600% higher LTV on average. So you're talking about enabling an experience where you're wanting those people that like your product, that like your brand, giving them the right control so that they can make those changes and make it really easy. And again, with the right tools and the right experience, you do it in the email so that they never actually see the cancellation button inside the portal is the path to go forward. Okay, so again, just as a quick recap, when we're thinking about customer experience and how we're managing this and how it's impacting your business, right? When we don't send billing reminder emails, people are still getting notifications that an order has been confirmed and it's been shipped to them. They're still seeing it on their credit card. It's just happening before the charge happened. Those communications are all still going out. And you can't turn those off, especially on Shopify. You can't turn off some of the order confirmation stuff. It's legally required. So you're missing out on the opportunity to talk to them before that charge happens. So that when people see that and they're upset about it, they're going to go cancel, and your opportunity to better manage that cancellation process is drastically reduced. So if you do that ahead of time, you have more control, you can influence them more positively. And while you may cause a bit more churn than you might have without sending it, I would argue that you would see better retention around that processing date than you would have otherwise. That yes, people are less likely to churn before the order processes, but they're going to churn after the order processes. And you're going to deal with chargebacks. You're going to deal with CS tickets, asking people to have their order refunded. And if any of those orders have hit like the mail stream, like you've shipped them, you're going to lose out on the cost of that product, the cost of fulfillment, all those things. And if you don't give them a refund, then they're definitely going to do a chargeback and they're going to win. Right? Like, for those of you who follow my podcast and everything, like, like generally don't get super negative, but I'm telling you, like, it's serious stuff here, right? As opposed to building out a better experience, controlling the narrative, giving them controls in the email, giving them upsells in the email, speaking to those great consumers, those great subscribers that want to buy from you and stay on your product. That's who you need to be speaking for. If you have a large group of people that are churning, I would suggest sending the billing reminder email anyway, because it's not going to make it worse. If you have really high churn, not sending the billing reminder email is just indicative of maybe some other issues, that people aren't really happy with what they're getting. They're not adopting the product very much. There are a lot of things that we can do, and you can review past doses and other content around improving the retention, your retention through better customer experience. But the goal here should be higher lifetime value. And I'm telling you, there's higher lifetime value when you send billing reminder emails than when you don't. Okay, that's it for this week's dose. If you have any questions, if you'd like to argue with me about this, if you would love for me to have an audit or to just share some different ways that you can test this, improve this, email examples, you name it. I care a lot about this topic. As you know, I believe that it's one of those classic examples of the right experience actually unlocks the right revenue. And I will just add on as a little tidbit, as you scale, you do not see large companies not sending billing reminder emails. They just don't do it. Eventually, you kind of grow into a better experience, or you have to do that because of laws, regulations, a lot of reasons to make that customer experience better. So figuring out a path forward to kind of make that right and make that work for your brand should be the goal. Okay, that's it for this week's dose. Stay tuned for next week. We'll have another dose of subscription prescription. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.